Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. My mom and dad always had an amazing relationship. To me, they were like the perfect soulmates, a match made in heaven. I had always thought that they would be my inspiration while looking for a relationship. It stayed this way for the first 13 years of my life until one day my life completely shattered and turned upside down. You see, my mom, who I still don't know why, deliberately decided to go out of her way to ruin the very beautiful relationship she and my dad had built over the span of 15 years. Yes, she had to ruin one of the best things I had in my life, my parents' love and support. Mind you all, she did this in one of the worst ways possible, too, by cheating on my dad. This woman had the sheer audacity to cheat on my dad, who had done things for her that people often only dream of their partners doing for them. This man let her become a stay at home mom, all the while funding every dream that she had ever had. And she, on the other hand, crushed my dad so much by this betrayal that he unfortunately could not get back up. This woman started an entire 3 year long affair with none other than my dad's business partner. Kevin. The real kicker is that outside being business partners, Kevin and my dad were childhood friends. So it is needless to say that this entire situation pulled my dad into a pit of darkness. My dad ran a very successful company with Kevin, so even upon finding this information out, there's not much he could do. And Kevin took great pride in that because he could now show off his new side piece, which was his childhood best friends right in front of him. Although I was at a ripe age, I knew something was off. The house that I loved to live in was no longer the same, as the parents that I loved so deeply seemed to be growing distant with every passing day. Even through all of this, my dad was a trooper. I still remember the way my grandpa tells me that he would often drive over from work to my grandparents' place, cry over everything that went down, and would just get up to wipe his tears and say that he needed to get back up strong for me. Every time I hear this story, it breaks me because I know this man would have done absolutely anything in this world for me. Unfortunately, life didn't give him that chance. One night, while returning home pretty late, my dad got into an accident. He was under the influence of some alcohol, and the snowy weather, being the way it is, resulted in this accident. I didn't find out about it until the very next day when not only my mom but also Kevin sat down with me to inform me of this news. The fact that Kevin was here annoyed the living hell out of me to begin with, but as soon as I found out what the news was about, it was like I lost my composure. I had started grieving not only the loss of my father, but also the loss of my family and my mother, because right after the moment she announced my dad's demise, she dropped the bombshell that she was pregnant with Kevin's baby. I was dumbfounded, not at the news of her pregnancy, but at the fact that this woman had the sheer audacity to announce her pregnancy right after she announced to me that Dad, her lover of 15 years, had passed away. That was the moment I knew my mom had lost some of the screws in her head and just knew I needed to be as far away from her as possible. So that was the very first time I left the house to go live with my grandparents. And this was not the last. Ever since the death of my dad, I started spending more and more time with my grandparents. My mom didn't really care, since the passing away of my dad meant that she got the freedom she had been craving all along. I still remember how it hadn't even been a week since my dad passed away. This woman literally moved houses and sold my dad's stuff to be able to build a nursery for her upcoming baby. Hell, this wasn't even the craziest part, because the fact that she believed that the baby in her womb was apparently the reincarnation of my dad. WTF moment, I know, but hell, if I were to make this post about her craziness, that would take me at least a couple of days to write. So let me get y'all's attention back to the rest. Right, so I start to live more and more with my grandparents, and my mom is least bothered because, hey, she has a brand new family now to replace me. Initially, it wasn't that bad. Kevin would often try to talk to me, And so with my mom. But I guess after realizing that I was going to play fairy tale love story fantasy, they slowly stopped trying and their efforts completely stopped when my mom gave birth to her first son. After that, our contact started reducing little by little. At first, the one or two calls per week reduced to one to two calls per month, and then month turned into a year until one point that they hadn't even called me for my birthday or Christmas. I saw this coming, so didn't find it shocking. In fact, the less I was contacted by them, the less my anxiety became. My grandparents became important figures in my life, along with some relatives on my mom's side, and that is how I have been spending the last 5 years of my life. Until this happened. Flash forward to now, it's been 5 years since my dad passed away. Things haven't changed a lot. I still live with my grandparents, and my mom still lives with Kevin. She's married to him now and has 4 kids with him. We're not in any contact, but I know my mom gets news about me through my aunt and vice versa. So recently, when my grandpa found out he had been diagnosed with terminal cancer, it was not quite shocking that she called him, but it wasn't for the reason I thought it would be for. This woman went out of her way to contact a bedridden man going through his last few days to berate him for not wanting to involve her children in his will. My grandpa told her that she wasn't going to see a dime because of the way she failed to become a mom to me, let alone a wife and a daughter in law. When I heard this through my grandma, I was sick to my stomach, but little did I know this was the mere beginning. Ever since my grandpa stopped responding to her calls, she has started contacting me, calling me constantly, texting me, and whatnot. It's just not her, though. Her children, as well as Kevin, have been spamming me on the constant. Their messages range anywhere from "we miss you" to "how dare I steal the inheritance from them." I am dumbfounded because it's not just "I miss you" that has been coming my way. It's my mom quite literally trying to become my mother once again by calling and texting me to check up on me as if we hadn't just stopped talking for the past 3 years. I really do not understand why she is so desperate for money when her own husband owns a successful business and she's been working herself. I asked my aunt to see if she could answer any of my questions, but even after much probing, she's doing this out of love and that I should give her a chance, is all I can get out of love. Recently, I received a message from my mom saying that she was going to come visit me if I didn't answer her text. That is when I knew I had enough and called her up. I was disgusted just by hearing her voice, but explained to her everything that I had been feeling towards the situation, and if she tried to contact me again, I would call the cops on her. Oh boy, the crocodile tears started rolling down, and I could hear that from her voice. Honestly, I didn't feel a thing. I simply just hung up and went about my day, at least until my aunt called me and berated me for being so harsh towards my mom, after all the attempts she was trying to make to become a good mother. I was sure of myself until I heard this from her, because previously she had taken my side when it came to my mom. I'm really not sure what to do here. I know I'm not wrong, but at the same time, what my aunt said kind of conflicted me. I want to get rid of my mom and Kevin permanently, especially when it comes to my grandpa. I want him to spend his last few days in peace, so any advice will be much appreciated here. I wasn't even going to update this post, but after what just happened, I just knew you guys would be just as dumbfounded as I was. Right after 2 days of my mom telling me that she wanted to come visit me to check up on me, literally after 4 years of not seeing me, she drove to my grandparents' house. She kept knocking on the door, and what I saw through the video doorbell horrified me. I stood there, seeing my mom pressing on the doorbell over and over. I even saw her picking out her phone from her bag and calling me, telling me screaming outside that she knew I knew she was there. I was a bit freaked out at that point, and I knew I needed to call the cops. This situation wasn't going to be fixed by itself. No amount of resistance coming from me or my grandparents was going to give this woman a no, and so I called the cops. They came soon, and throughout the time they came, my mom hadn't given up her attempts to get inside the house. My grandma and I both were scared out of fear that she would somehow break in, but thankfully, she had enough sense to not do that. So after a while, the cops came and she immediately knew the reason why they were here. I'm not sure what clicked with her, but this woman started weeping bitter tears, immediately telling the cops that my grandparents had stolen me. I had opened the door at that point and informed the cops that I was a legal adult living with my grandparents and had no idea what this woman was talking about. I showed the cops the footage of her shenanigans that she had been doing since the past hour, and although the cops informed me that there wasn't much they could do, they were definitely taking a report of this for future purposes. While doing so, they thoroughly warned my mom about the consequences if her actions kept being repeated, and I think the stern talk they gave my mom some fear, at least enough that she left. After that, I sent my aunt some of the footage of my mom, asking her if this is the mother figure she wanted me to have in my life. She didn't say much, but she did say that she wanted to meet me tomorrow to discuss this situation face to face. Currently, that is what I'm waiting on, and I'm sure you all are waiting for the same. We'll update you all once that happens. I did not update you guys because not only I was busy with my grandpa's funeral, but also busy with college-related admission work. Yes, unfortunately, right after this entire situation had gone down, my grandpa's health began deteriorating more than it already was. We tried to admit him to the hospital, but unfortunately, that was of no help. Within a span of a week, he took his last couple of breaths. Devastation would be an understatement. I was quite literally numb for the next couple of weeks, but I knew I had to get up and get my grandpa's matters sorted, and I just knew meeting my aunt was one of them. Being shocked would be kind of an understatement because the information that my aunt gave me left me speechless. She started off by apologizing for getting angry with me and siding with my mom. Apparently, Kevin had made some horrible decisions in the business my dad and him owned, with his shares, of course. Well, you see, since he didn't have my dad anymore to hold his pinky and guide him through this business. So, right after about 6 months of my dad passing away, he lost his share of the business. This caused them to go through a lot of financial hardships since their previously great lifestyle was now ruined, and having kids one after the other didn't help much either. So they have been struggling financially a lot. And the fact that my grandpa had practically bought Kevin's shares and was taking care of the company on his own infuriated them. Which is why the news spread to them that my grandpa was going to leave all my dad's company under my name. These people became big mad, and apparently they dragged my aunt into this as well, giving her the hopes that they would help her pay off her huge house mortgage if she supported them. So much so for the money that wasn't even in my hands. These people didn't let my grandpa pass away in peace. It hurts because everything comes back to remind me of Dad's passing away, and I know, although it's a bit too late, I wasn't going to let them have another person pass away restlessly. So, right after I got handed the will, I signed a check to my aunt, and with that, I wrote her a note thanking her for everything she had done for me. Along with that, I mentioned how her last couple had impacted me, and I hope that this money was worth breaking my trust over. After I sent her the envelope, I quite literally blocked her on all the little places I would talk to her. As for my mom, I did nothing. She stopped contacting me right after the cops got involved, and I guess that was it. One thing her kids, most likely her and Kevin, had done though was to message me to threaten me with lawyers. I simply just replied, bring it on. I'm currently working on leaving the state for business school. I will be taking over my dad's business after graduation. Until then, I want to do all I can to make my grandma proud of me. I want to see her lead a calm life and just want the both of us to get an opportunity to grieve over things peacefully. You guys truly made me stronger just through your comments. The love you all gave me is overwhelming. Thank you. NTA, your mom is a horrible person. She was either just never nice or something truly terrible happened with her that she flipped this way. Regardless, I would do nothing in this situation and just wait and see what she does since she has absolutely no leg to stand on legally and morally. I mean, thinking that your ex-father-in-law would leave inheritance for the kids you had through an affair? Talk about entitlement at its peak. NTA, I'm so sorry for your loss. Your mom is a horrible person, and this post seems like a compilation of her toxic behavior. I would be just as mortified as you are if I had to deal with her again. Just call the cops on her and report her for the spam and harassment. I'm a 35-year-old male and I have a daughter, Kiki, 7, female, with my ex-girlfriend, Yvonne, 34, and have 50-50 shared custody. Every time Yvonne sends Kiki back home to me, she is in dingy old clothes. They are either too small and cut so she can fit them, stained, have holes, too big, not weather appropriate, long sleeves in the summer, etc. And her shoes are always filthy. I know Yvonne makes less money than me, which is why we have an agreed upon amount of money I send her monthly for Kiki's expenses. My wife, Sarah, 30, also came up with the idea that I just cover Kiki's childcare education expenses since it won't break the bank for us, and that way, Yvonne can just use all the money I send her for Kiki. I just want to send Kiki home in the clothes her mom sent her in, so we started sending her home in clothes we purchased. She would always send her home with the outfit ruined. Sarah's mom bought Kiki some cute new shoes, and Kiki begged to wear them to her mom's. So she was sent home in another raggedy outfit with the shoes completely ruined and muddy. Yvonne said they went to the park in them. Sarah was pissed, so she went and bought a bunch of clothes from the stores like Rainbow, H&M, Walmart, etc. And we sent those over there. So if they're ruined, it will not matter and she can keep all her nice clothes here. Yvonne called us petty and said keeping tabs on clothes and shopping at cheap stores to send to mommy's house is offensive to Kiki and creating a toxic environment. I just don't want my daughter walking around looking a mess when she doesn't have to. It's embarrassing, and I know it doesn't make Kiki feel good. I feel like keeping all her quality stuff and favorite outfits here preserves them so she has it. She doesn't know the difference between the clothes quality and just sees the designs. But Reddit, am I really being selfish and petty? AITA? NTA, Yvonne, I think, purposely sees to it that the new clothes you send Kiki in are ruined. Now she's mad because you are sending Kiki to her in clothes where it won't matter if they are ruined or not. She's the AH. NTA, you are sending her to her mother's in new, clean, well-fitting clothes. Whether they are from Walmart or not is immaterial. If anything, spending money on expensive clothes for a 7-year-old is throwing it down the drain due to how quickly they grow. Your ex needs to spend the child support money on her child to ensure she is well cared for. Sending her in ill-fitting, inappropriate clothing is not doing that. She is creating her own toxic environment and then throwing a shit fit about it. NTA, you're not sending her over there in cheap clothes for no reason or to get back at her mother. You've actually tried sending her over in decent clothes and they get ruined. Let Yvonne call you petty. I would be honest with her. Say that you can't keep providing good clothes that will be ruined, and that's what has been happening. So, to avoid arguments and stress, you're focusing on clothes that can be ruined without breaking the bank. One thing you said, you have an agreement about how much child support to pay in a way that sounds odd. I hope you don't mean that you've decided what to pay. The courts or a mediator should. It may very well be that you're not paying enough, in which case I understand Yvonne's anger. It's just a reality that in most situations the mother provides most of the childcare. If Yvonne was taking care of a baby instead of focusing on her career, then that's why she's poor. It wouldn't be fair if she had to struggle as a result.